Hey, you beautiful people. Welcome to episode number 5. I'm your host, Mark Anderson, with the Reptile Shed podcast on the Show Me Reptile Network. Let's see, who do we have in the comments today? We have Sky's the Limit. Thank you for tuning in. Who else? My beautiful girlfriend, Rylan. Thanks for tuning in. We have my Aunt Debbie. Thank you for tuning in. And the boss man. Thank you for tuning in. All right. So yeah, like I said, on the Show Me Reptile Network, coast to coast, largest reptile show. And yeah, before we get into things, because I have a very special guest today, we're going to go ahead and roll out 2 sponsorship videos to pay the bills. Here we go.
What is up? What is up? What is up, everybody? It's your boy, Reptile. Show me Reptile.
Those videos are so awesome. I love it. All right. So today we have a very special guest. This person actually lives in Oregon, here in the same state as I do. And I did get some water monitors from him, and we will talk about that here in a little bit. But let me introduce Jason Gamby, everybody. Welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for.
Jason.
Hey, Mark, what's happening, buddy?
Oh, yeah. Same stuff every week,
Right, living the dream.
Yes. So how's it going with you?
Oh, man, doing good. It's a pleasure to have you think of me to come on your podcast. So I really appreciate that.
With all your knowledge and everything, of course. And you flooded me with knowledge, especially on this. Let's just jump right into it. But the water monitors I got from you.
Yeah.
Guru
Yep.
genes. Can you explain what a guru gene is?
Yeah, so there's kind of a long and not so clear history on the guru. It's a visual morph, right? So it either has it or it doesn't. And back, I want to say it was in the 80s. There's a gentleman who owns a reptile shop in California. I can't remember his name, but it's called Reptile Guru. I'm not sure if that's where, Guru got the name. A lot of unclear things there, but he imported 2 of those Guru water monitors. And over the years, they kind of got split up to where one was, sorry about that. One was sent to a zoo, and then Vital Exotics ended up with the other one, Christopher Brown and Jim Heck. And
Okay.
through though, and then Jim did a lot of pioneering work on the Guru gene. Really was the only breeder for many, many years and small quantities. um, and he kind of unlocked the vast majority of the knowledge on that. There's a few other guys in America that kind of got into it as well, but he was primarily the main guy. And with that, he unlocked a lot of information. For example, if you have one guru and one normal Asian water monitor and you breed them together, you'll get roughly 50% guru, 50% normal. Now, the normals aren't het guru or anything like that because the guru gene is a visual
Okay.
morph, right? So it either has it or it doesn't. You can look at it and tell. Now, as the line breeding and things have really gone on over the years, there are some normal water monitors out there that are pretty darn clean, pretty bright, pretty beautiful. And, some people can think, oh, this is guru, when, really it's not. Or this was part of a guru clutch, so it looks super clean, but it's not guru, right? So there was another gentleman that ended up with the one that was in the zoo, Brad CBB. He's not in it anymore, but he had done a lot of breeding with it as well. And my goal, getting back into reptiles after so many years out of it was, hey, these water monitors have come a long ways. They're beautiful. They're not sick. They're not imports. They're healthy. They're friendly, for the most part, compared to what they were in the mid to late 90s. And so that's kind of what spurred me back into it, was learning more about the guru gene, trying to deep dive into it, but then also just how dang far the animals have come over the years.
And just to be clear, this is the Java morph, right?
Yes.
Or the Java locality, not morph. The Java
Locality, yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Which is the main Asian water monitor, the most common one.
Right.
Awesome. And then, so just to clarify, the guru gene, actually, it's the oscillations, right? Going across the back.
Yeah. There's the ocelli being super filled, super clear, super bright, perfectly round.
Okay.
You'll see the tail tends to be a lot cleaner, less of that black speckling, along the tail, and the neck tends to be trying to carry that guru pattern up a little bit, if you will, and it's yeah.
And a true guru, is it less yellow, like more kind of white? If that makes sense.
No, I know what you're saying, but I think it really depends on who it was bred with, right? So if you got a guru and a normal, what's that normal look like? What's it going to contribute to the gene pool? So I think just like you and I, we're all a little bit different. I've seen guru that are super high yellow, just like a highlighter fluorescent, and I've seen some that are a little duller, or maybe even kind of tend to that whiter color that you're referring to. But
yeah, I just say that because I listened to another podcast on the Trap Talk network, and it had this lady Jen was on there, and she was interviewing somebody that was talking about the guru gene, and he said that a true guru gene is a lot lighter, and then if it has more yellow in it, there's a water monitor put in there, like you said, where you can have a normal one and then a guru, and then put them together, and then
Now I've seen guru to guru breedings.
Yeah.
Right. That I don't know if that's what they're referring to as true guru, but that have come out super high yellow. And I don't think that the color of the ocelli really dictates whether it's true guru or not, from my experience, right? And like I started this out by saying, there's a lot of unknowns with the guru gene. I mean, what happens when you put a super awesome guru to another super awesome guru? Do we get super guru? I don't know. I mean, there's so much unexplored with that line that it's it's kind of hard to like have definitive, concrete written in stone, this is guru, right? So I think most people kind of go off of, who their breeder is, what the parents were that, made that guru, and then the pattern, that tells everything.
And then I got 3 lizards total from you. I got 2 males, 1 female. Now the bigger male, where did he come from?
So he came from Blake.
Okay.
Blake, was it Blake Wilson? Drawing a line. So he kind of got out of the reptile game as well, but he ended up with the Brad's line. And I called Jim's line and Brad's line because there are some visual differences between what Jim produces and what Brad produced. I don't know. I've seen enough of them that if you put one of each side by side, I could tell you who produced what, right? Just they have a different look, especially in the neck region. And the ocelli tend to be a little bit bigger than like what Jim produced. So Blake somehow ended up with some of Brad's animals before he got out of reptiles. And yours is I believe guru to guru.
Oh.
Yeah, I sent you a lot of different pictures the other day, and I know there was some of the baby pictures in there, but I can resend like each one of them as baby pictures so that you don't get them confused. It's hard to tell
Okay.
when they're all babies like that.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah.
And then you said he had 2 big lizards, right? And then there was like a house fire or something, and
Yeah. Yeah.
one.
So Blake, he bred everything. He got into the water monitors kind of late, I believe. He was primarily like a big snake guy, anacondas, reticulateds, those types of giant snakes. And then he got into the water monitors, and he lived down in Texas, and he did have a fire that kind of wiped out his lizard room, and which was unfortunate. I mean, because I had been talking to him, I don't know, for about a month after the babies were born, and he only ended up getting rid of 2 of them, yours being one of them, before the fire happened. So I felt bad, right? Because all those animals perished. I mean, I don't know, if I had to guess, he probably had 30 or 40 adult water monitors, all different kinds of them, gurus being part of what he had. But he had black dragons, he had, exanthics, he had all kinds of water monitors. And I was kind of stoked that I was able to get one out of him, because it was a lot of work to get him to sell me one. He didn't want to cut loose.
That's awesome. All right, and then the 2 younger ones I got from you.
Yep.
Where did those come?
So those came from Jim Heck, Vital Exotics.
Okay.
I got them from a buddy of mine who went through some life changes and had to get rid of them. And him and it's kind of weird about the internet. You can become super close buddies with somebody without ever physically meeting them. And that was the case with my buddy Greg. And we both kind of had this vision of breeding guru, and he really liked the black dragons. But when he ran into some life challenges and unexpected curves that come our way from time to time, he sent me his 2 babies and pretty much just gave them to me. And so I was raising them up with hopes of one day breeding them. They are 2 of, I would put those 2, as far as the visual looks go, in that top 5% of guru I've ever seen. I mean, their tails are perfectly clean. And I'm weird when it comes to the guru, right? A lot of people focus on that big back pattern. I go straight to the tail. What's the tail look like? What's the neck look like, right? Because we all know that the main part of the back pattern is going to be beautiful. I mean, that's what makes them guru, right? So I look at the other small details, kind of, the geek in me, but got those from him. And then I guess we can kind of roll into this too. When my big guy, Lulu, who I bought as a little guy, and I raised him up, he unexpectedly passed, and I don't know why. He had ate the night or 2 nights before. He was doing good, active in his cage, and then I woke up one morning to kind of a little bit of a smell in the house, and he had unfortunately passed under his heat lamp. Um, that really took the wind out of my sails. And after he passed, which I want to say was at the end of last summer,
Okay.
I kind of lost interest in the other gurus. I don't know if I was grieving. I don't know if, me turning 50 at the time had something to do with some sort of midlife crisis, or change or what. I don't, I don't know, but I kind of lost my desire or my passion to further get into that project. And then I just kind of quit spending a lot of time with them. They were all social at one point, and I just kind of then started that thinking like, hey, maybe it's time for me to kind of step out of this a little bit, find somebody who, can really take them to that next level and fulfill my dream, but also their own, and you were a no-brainer. First one came to my mind.
That's awesome. What made you pick
Yeah.
me?
Well, you and I had been friends on Facebook for, I don't know, 3, 4, 5 years, something like that. And excuse me, being a fellow Oregonian, and seeing the areas when you were in Bend area, out there, I'd spent a lot of time in Bend too. So I was familiar with where you were going, herping and taking your boy out there. And then all of the different over the years, I mean, you got hundreds of posts of you at, different businesses or restaurants or parties or out in a normal park, educating everybody on reptiles and, that that snake isn't the slimy thing that's going to chase you down and eat you, and you'd have people, change their views on them. And so that aspect alone was pretty much like, okay, if I'm going to get rid of them, they got to go to Mark if he wants them, obviously. But I know your life's work, your life's mission, and knew that you were the right guy, for sure.
I'm
And that's
so
why I didn't
excited.
ask for money. That's why I was like, hey, come get everything for free, because to me, that's you having them and the work that you do is more important to me than getting a couple $1,000s in my pocket, right? I mean, I know you're going to treat them well. I know you're going to make them, fat, happy, and healthy. And eventually, when they're socialized and, puppy dog tame, like I know they can be, I know they'll be out there in a park somewhere getting some little 8-year-old boy hooked on reptiles for the rest of his life. And that's a
Oh,
win,
yeah. Yeah,
So,
you've already seen him interacting with the public and everything. I think it
yeah,
took a few weeks
yeah,
and then people were holding him.
yeah, yeah, they're, yeah,
And you did
for
a
sure.
great job socializing him too, especially, they're already used to it. It didn't take much. Like I know with
Right.
crocodilians, they have like a week-long memory. If you don't continue to
Yeah.
socialize with them, they'll go back to like primitive. But with these monitors, they were really good, it was a new environment, so they were a little
Yeah.
skittish, but once they got used to things and all the repetition, they
Yeah.
did great and they're still doing great. So
Awesome.
and then yeah, I
Yeah.
can't wait to do that project.
Yeah, like my big guy, before he passed, he was almost 8 foot, about 60-ish, 70 pounds. He was a big dude. But he just like, he didn't care about the cat. He didn't care about the dogs. I mean, the cat would sleep. He would sleep pressed up against his glass door because I had sliding glass door panes that I framed in wood and then put on hinges. He would sleep in front of that, and the cat would sleep pressed up on the outside of it. I mean, this happened for years, and it's like, I think a lot of that had to do with never feeding him anything live, right? So he didn't look at some furry thing wandering around outside of his glass as potential food. He was just so chill and calm that, it was those guys I gave you, they'll get there. I have no doubt in my mind that eventually they'll be, you can just turn them loose in your room there and yeah, they'll just be cruising around and looking for somebody to pet them and give them interaction. And yeah. Yep.
That's amazing. I'm so excited. It's going to be fun. Now, I do have a question. I'm not really good on genetics and
Yeah.
what they do to each other. So, if I have like the female guru, right? And then I have
Mhm.
my male banded sulfur, water
Mhm.
monitor, and they're both Java morphs. Can I put them together and then will it make anything?
Yeah. So it will, and somebody already did it. Jerry Wolf down in Florida, Wolf's World on YouTube. He's a big time monitor guy, kind of got into it a few years ago. Um, I don't think he bred them, but he ended up with one from somebody else down there in Florida that's a guru uh, sulfur mix, and you can definitely tell it. They're awesome looking animals. Kind of have like you would imagine if you crossed a sulfur and a guru. I mean, it's everything you would imagine it to be and more. It's super cool looking.
And then I want to throw the bandit on there too. So it'd be, I
Yeah,
could technically have a 3 gene animal.
you technically could. Yeah, I don't know if his were banded or not, but I definitely know he had or still has a guru sulfur mix, and it's freaking cool looking. I even think he bred. I don't know if he bred it. I think he might have bred it to a normal female,
That's
and
awesome.
yeah, and the babies came out phenomenal. They
All
were
right,
awesome looking.
I'm gonna take a quick break really quick to roll out a few sponsorship videos, and then I do have
Yep,
a few more questions for you. All
sounds good.
right, here you go.
Island. Well, I want to say about 4 years ago or so, and I think that was
the python. So I can say that the retic is my favorite, but I love my watermark. And I
rodents, you got to make sure you're on them all the time, because if not, they can get out of hand.
Really weird, and I was like, can't keep them all.
Right.
What do you think?
I really think that's a good idea.
You ready to go inside, conductor? Let's go crash dive in here.
Nice.
This is tiny.
That's
think
tiny.
Yeah.
And I felt like it wasn't really an inclusive community, and I wanted to involve everybody and grow it. And
Woo! Looks like we had J and a S Exotics pop in. Thanks for popping in. And Kryptonite Dreams. Thanks for popping
Nice.
in. Yeah. Okay, so where was I going with all that stuff? There's so much information. Okay, let's talk about your plants for a little bit. I know you have some very rare and exotic plants.
Yeah. During COVID, when we were all pretty much locked home and I was working from home all the time, and the wife, we were both like, let's add some life to here, to the house. And so we kind of jumped in head first on houseplants, and of course, like anything you don't really know much about and you dive into head first, you end up losing some along the way. But yeah, kind of my favorite are the alocasias. Problem is I could hardly keep them alive. And I met a guy out here in Oregon that does all of his house plants semi-hydroponic, and he's phenomenal with them. He's like the house plant whisperer. So I've been learning a lot from him, and transitioning a lot of my plants over to semi-hydro and getting them on a better feeding schedule, and I've seen some pretty darn impressive results from doing that. So it kind of renewed my my passion for the allocations in particular, because now I can keep them alive and they thrive and they're doing good. So yeah, I started getting into like the Albo Monsteras and the Thai constellations, and plants that during COVID, they kind of really became accessible at that time, the ties and the elbows. But shoot, man, a cutting was like $800, and I'm like, I don't know enough to, feel confident about keeping those guys alive. But now with learning the semi-hydro way of keeping the plants and doing they're more accessible. They're not $800 anymore. You can get nice, cuttings of Albo Monsteras for 25 to 50, $100. So I kind
Yeah.
of jumped in on those guys, and they're just absolutely beautiful.
What is semi-hydroponic?
So if you think of like normal hydroponic, right? And you see that a lot in gardening and different growing methods, that's pretty much the roots are submerged in water. Right.
Okay.
So you could do leca, which is the clay balls, and then put your plants in there, and then it's in a water basin completely filled with water. Semi-hydro is if you think of putting a plant in a pot, it's two pots, right? So one sets inside of the other. The outside pot is the water basin. The inside pot sets above the water, but you use like a rope, 1/4-inch cotton rope or something, that goes outside of the first pot. So it wicks the water up and into the soil. I use like a pumice lava mix on those plants. So no dirt, right? All nice coarse gravel. Run that rope wicks the water up into that first pot. And so it's kind of what they call semi-hydro, and it works awesome on houseplants.
That's smart.
You don't have to.
I was gonna say, do you have any house plants you want to show us?
Yeah. In fact, here's one right here, a little guy. I can kind of give you an idea of the pot thing. So this is just a little plant here, but you can see the water in the basin there. But if I lift this guy out, you can see the ropes, right? So that, yeah, you just, in this basin here, you just mix up your fertilizer and your water, and you dump it in there, and then those ropes wick it up into the soil. I don't know if I can show you, but that's not Miracle Grow potting soil. That's like a lava and pumice mixture. And what that does is that allows you to really have a huge amount of oxygen exchange in the soil. So oxygen grows roots. It's one of the big components to excellent root growth. And then two, with that coarse mix, it creates more fibrous roots, right? So if you think about pulling something out of the clay, or your grandma's pot that she used, Miracle Grow potting soil, for example. I don't mean to pick on Miracle Grow here, but it's something we all know.
Yep.
The roots in those plants tend to be longer and thicker and more tuberous, whereas this kind of eliminates those long tuberous root growth and keeps all the fine feeders up nice and tight. And so you're just constantly growing feeders. So you're constantly pumping nutrition, into that plant out of that basin. And for me, it's a game changer because it takes the guesswork out of watering. And that's a lot of my problem, is you end up with so many different species of plants that all have different feeding and watering schedules and needs, that it's like, just having them in the semi-hydro environment with that rope wicking the water up there, the plant takes what it needs. And it's not like it's soaking the soil, right? It's just keeping it nice and moist. And yeah, it's been a game changer for me. And I can definitely see it in the health of the plants and the growth. It's crazy.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
And that was your success. That's how you did it all with those really rare plants.
Yeah. Yeah. Yep. And you know, when you were here, that was kind of at the start of my transition into the semi-hydro environment. So they've changed a lot since you were here, because now their roots are becoming established in that environment, and their transition, you know, that transition period is kind of over, and it's like, okay, hey, these are my new environment. This is what I have to grow in, and now they're really kind of starting to take off. So the wife and I are going to move most of them out back in the shade. We tend to every summer move our plants outside, and they just go bananas in the summertime from, you know, the heat and the humidity, and it's, yeah, now they don't get full sun. They don't even get morning sun. They just get, you know, the ambient sun from, you know, what they would pick up in the shade. But the temperatures being 90 degrees, they love that and go crazy.
And you have like perfect weather. You're up right by Washington, so
Yeah, right along the Columbia. Yep.
oh, that's
Yep.
amazing.
Yep.
What are your plans for the plant?
One of the things that it's still plant related. Many years ago, I was into bonsai. So think Karate Kid, small tree and pot, you know, the Japanese art form. Having, you know, gone through some loss recently in the family, and my brother's, you know, got a pretty rough battle with cancer going, that like subconsciously made me think about kind of when was I at my happiest in life, right? When was I firing on all cylinders, you know, in all aspects of my life? And that was about 15-18 years ago when I was doing bonsai, right? So that kind of contributed into those thought processes. Not that I wanted to get back into bonsai, but dealing with, you know, a couple key deaths in my life and my brother's cancer and all that in a very short period of time made me kind of reflect on that question. When was I my best? When was I my happiest? And that was when I was doing bonsai. I had beautiful koi pond. I had an amazing backyard. You know, I was just killing it, you know, professionally, personally. And I'm headed there again. I'm getting back into bonsai. You know, it was giving you those animals and having that death and losing Lulu, my big guy, you know, it all culminated into, okay, plus I'm midlife now. So who knows, maybe it's midlife crisis, but it's better than hookers and blow, you know, going with houseplants and bonsai, you know? So, I'm gonna get back to that world of collecting trees out of the mountains, and pursuing that Japanese art form, you know, that is calming, relaxing, hard work, creative outlet. You know, like you go sit down in your room with one of your anacondas, and all of your day's problems go away. You know, and that's therapeutic, you know, for life and your well-being physically and mentally. So I think I'm gonna kind of head that direction and get back into the bonsai and of course the house plants and, you know, all of that. And, you know, maybe one day when you breed those guru, maybe I have like, hey, I just want one. I don't need 4. I don't need 5. I don't want to breed. I just want a kick-ass pet, you know, that. And that's what those are. Those are, you know, super cool. I have 2 sulcata tortoises right now that when people are walking by the house or they see them, they're just blown away. And I used to do that with Lou, man. Huh?
Tell us about your sulcatas. I remember they were outside in an outdoor enclosure.
Yeah. No, there, and we just extended their enclosure, made it a lot bigger last weekend. Yeah, so we got them both as tiny little babies when my daughter was she was probably 4 or 5. We went to one of the reptile shows, I believe, in Hillsboro. And there was somebody with a big tub of baby sulcatas, and she wanted one. And the wife and I, you know, had a pretty extensive reptile past, you know, in the late 80s through the 90s. So we're like, yeah, no, that'd be pretty cool. You know, I've always wanted one. And the daughter fell in love, so we got her one. And then kind of like everybody else, it's like, we can't just have one, you got to have two. And so there was a breeder out of Phoenix, Arizona that I ran across online, and he had a little baby that had a split scoot, and she just was so cool looking with that split scoot, the uniqueness, the individuality of that. So I picked her up, and shoot, now they're pretty big, at least the big guy's pretty big, the first one we got. Kept them inside in the house during the wintertime, would leave them outside all summer, but man, they're destructive, and they are powerful. If he pulls his head in and wants to get through anything, he's going to get through it. And after some sheetrock damage in the house a few winters ago, I was like, okay, I gotta do something more permanent outside. So for whatever reason, I don't know why, I felt bad throwing away the insulation that comes in the Rodent Pro boxes when you buy your feeders.
Right.
And so I would hold on to that, and I would throw it in my storage unit. And why, I don't know. Maybe I wanted to get rid of it, in a responsible way instead of throwing it in the landfill. I don't know. But I started building them a hut, and I thought, hey, I got all that insulation. So I repurposed all that Rodent Pro insulation and insulated their outdoor enclosure. And shoot, I run a 125 watt, two 125 watt bulbs 24/7 in there, and it would keep that at 90, 100 basking spots of 120, which they utilized quite a bit. And then if they went to the cool side, it was in the 80s, and that's with it being icy and snowy outside and 20 degrees, so it worked out awesome. And we just added on 10-foot by 8-foot section to their outdoor enclosure.
Okay.
So they're loving it. Yeah.
How did you reinforce it?
I just ran it. I used pressure treated 2x6s with 3-foot concrete, like form stakes, the metal stakes, and just drove them in on the outside. Because we're outside watering the garden all day, and not all day, every day. And we feed him every day. We're pretty keen on if he's trying to dig somewhere. It's not like he's going to dig a hole big enough for him to get out of in 8 hours or 12 hours. It's going to take him a few days. So if we see him digging in a place that's like, okay, this might end badly, we'll go ahead and reinforce that area with rock. The big flat flagstone, like you would see in walkways.
Okay.
We'll dig down and bury a couple of those and kind of cut them off when he gets down there.
Smart. That's really smart. And what's your future plans for when they get big? Because they're about 50 to 60 pounds right now, right?
Yeah. We'll keep them to the daughter will take them. They're hers, essentially. Of course, we feed them and take care of them, and she goes out and hangs out with them every now and then. But the wife and I have really taken a liking to them. So, when my time's up, I'm hoping she's in a spot that she can take them. If not, I might be giving you a call, or she might, because I'll be gone. Hey, Mark.
That's awesome. Yeah, I have
big
friends.
sulcatas?
Yeah, I have friends that keep their sulcatas and like African porcupines together. And
wow.
Yeah, it's crazy. And they all just live together. And they I was worried about like porcupines nibbling on the shell or something, and they just leave them alone. I was like, that's crazy.
Yeah,
that's really cool.
People getting some chickens to throw in there with them, but I'm not worried about like another animal hurting them. Sulcatas eat everything that's on the ground, and it's like, okay, is there some bacterial thing coming from a chicken that can mess up my tortoises? And I would think the same thing with, those porcupines. It's like, okay, if they eat porcupine poop, which I know they will, is there something that could be potentially bad for them? So
I think in the wild, they would eat a lot of poop.
I would think so. That's what the wife said too. That's what the wife said. But I'm like, these guys never spent time in the wild to build up that, bacteria to eat that. I know their species has, but these individuals haven't. And I don't know if that would, I don't know.
I never thought about that. I got to ask. Huh?
Yeah.
That's really smart. I know a lot of tortoises and turtles, they'll eat carrion. They'll eat so much dead things. And a lot of people don't realize it. Even
Yeah,
like a
yeah.
auto, like you got to throw a rat in there every once in a while, you know?
Yeah,
Like
and
a
I've seen
stiff
people
bird.
doing that, thaw out one and throw it in there and they just eat that up. I haven't never done that. I'm sure the animal protein is, good for them.
Oh yeah.
It's not going to hurt them. So I'm sure they'd benefit from that. And I'm sure in the wild, they do
Oh,
nibble on critters from time to time. So, but
they
I
stab
haven't
them.
done that with my guys.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Oh, that's exciting. And you don't plan on breeding them or anything, do you?
No, 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 no. No,
Right? There's too many out there.
there's too many breeders out there. There's too many sulcutas that people end up with for 2 to 5 years and then either lose interest or they get too big and then they have to rehome. And, there's so many tortoise rescues in Southern California and Arizona and New Mexico that it's just, no, I don't want to contribute to that.
What is the
I mean, it'd
market?
be cool, but at the same time, the cool factor doesn't outweigh the other factors.
Yep.
So
I had Brian ask, "What's your one of your most memorable reptile breeding moments?"
to be honest, Brian, I never read or bred reptiles. I was always a keeper. Um, and I had friends who bred, Brad Tillman, Brad's World up in Corvallis.
I love
My
Brad.
yeah, my brother-in-law worked for him while he was in college up there, and
Easy.
I would get like the most amazing leopard geckos and red-tailed boas that Brad was breeding, and so I was lucky and fortunate enough to kind of be associated with really good breeders at the time that there was no need for me to breed. I did breed rabbits, mice, and rats for many years to feed everything because it's a
How was
small
that?
portion when you have that's a lot of work, man. And that's I was down in Grants Pass at the time and it gets hot out there. So having them in a shed was a constant battle to try to keep them cool. So then I moved them inside the house, and then you're constantly keeping up on the bedding and the shavings, keeping them clean and changing them out. And so your living room didn't smell, because it doesn't take much for those guys to start stinking pretty bad. And they were way more work than keeping a bunch of snakes and monitors and geckos and, but yeah, unfortunately, I never did breed reptiles. That was the way I was heading with the guru. Spent a lot of time trying to find, proven females, next to impossible to do. But when my big guy died, man, that dream kind of fizzled. So now I'm living vicariously through Mark and what he's gonna do in the future.
Yeah, it'll be really interesting too. And I'm really glad I learned that you can breed guru to a normal and then have some gurus and not. Because I really want to take that banded sulfur male water
Yeah,
monitor and do it to the female one of the clutches
yeah,
and just see what comes
yep,
out. Because
yep,
they're all same
yep.
locality and everything. But that'd
Yeah,
be
yeah, and
amazing.
you can breed them to black dragons.
What
Now
would that be?
Black dragon and guru, um, it
Yeah.
doesn't. It's pretty interesting. I've seen pictures of them and know a few guys that have done it back in the day, and they're just a darker looking guru, if that makes sense. The yellows aren't as yellow. The blacks on the main part of the body are a little bit darker than a normal.
Wow.
But to me, and my personal taste, I wouldn't do it because I didn't really like the looks of them too much. I think when you have a guru, it's that bright color, it's the crazy ocelli and that contrast between them. And the black dragon kind of mutes that a little bit. So I wouldn't do it, but I know people, definitely would have. If I was in your shoes, I would try breeding guru to guru first and then go guru to sulfur the next, cycle for that female. Because the
I,
guru to guru is going to be, those things are going to be unbelievable.
is it going to be super guru?
See, that's where we haven't gone, man. I mean, I think Jim Heck might have bred guru to guru. I know Blake did guru to guru, but a couple times, and that there's only a few clutches out there that have ever been that way. So I don't know. I mean,
That's
if
crazy.
if you follow the ball python world and methodology, then yes, we would have super guru, but who's going to be the first one to call it that? Who's going to be the first one to, go down that path? So
Me, of
yeah,
course.
yeah,
And
yeah.
then we'll have it
And
on
I
future episodes.
Yeah, and I think, the hard part about doing that is like with ball pythons, there's 30, 40 years of intensive breeding and developing different morphs and things and crossing those. There's a ton of data on that. You got the late Brian Barczyk, Kevin at Nerd. Those guys have been doing those, and many others. I'm not forgetting them, have been
Yep.
doing the ball python thing for so many years and have a ton of data on it, right? And they're just unbelievable how much info they have on it. Whereas with the guru, it's just it's not there, right? So I think there's still a lot more to learn on them, and breeding guru to guru will definitely, start presenting opportunities to collect data and see what happens.
I'm so
Definitely,
excited.
yeah.
It's gonna be
There's a
fun.
lot there, and I'm happy to go every step of the way with you. From a resource perspective, call me up, got questions. Not that I know everything or I'm an expert, I'm not, but
I
I
feel like
spent
you're an
four or
expert.
five I spent 4 or 5 years researching everything on guru and talking to people who had actually bred gurus and kept gurus from, when they first came in to the States. And I geeked out on it and went down the dark hole, and there's a lot of information there, and then there's at the same time there's not a lot of information there, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and we'll definitely have more information on the future episodes too. And I want to have
Yeah.
you back on as well. And I know we're
Yeah.
getting close to 50 minutes here. I
Yep.
do have somebody behind the scenes that is at a live show right now, a live Show Me Reptile show. And I know he's itching to come out, so we'll bring him out here. And I know we have a live show after this if anybody wants to join, and he'll explain more right now.
So what's going on, guys?
Hey.
What's up, Steve?
So I had to come out because the show's starting to pick up, and I lost some of my internet connectivity. We are indeed going to try to go live here after this show, though. Mark, am I coming through for you guys?
Yeah, a little staticky, but we can hear you.
Okay, yeah, it's just kind of the more people come through the door, the more people are drawing on the overall data. So, but that's a good thing. That's a good thing when the people are coming. So,
Yes.
yeah, I'm out here at the Kansas City Show Me Reptile show. We're at the Marriott in Blue Springs, Missouri, dude. Show will be going on until 3:30, and there's quite a few good breeders here and some pretty amazing animals, guys. So it's a good time to come out.
Woo! I'm excited to go live again.
So that's kind of what I got, dude. I'm just up here at the show, tearing it up, and ready for our next live. You guys put on a really good show, though. Lots of good information. Always a good time, Mark.
Thanks. It was all thanks to Jason.
So there you go, man. Hey, sometimes it takes him. So I appreciate you coming on as well, Jason.
Yeah.
We, like he said, we'd like to have you on again anytime you'd like to come out. And hopefully we start seeing you floating around a couple of these shows and we get some one-on-one time or whatever. So
Yeah, it'd be awesome. Thank you.
that's all I've got, Mark. I'm going to go ahead and jump backstage, let you go ahead and wrap things up so we can get ready, boss.
Awesome. I'll see you after the show. That was awesome. Yeah, the live shows are really cool. Especially, are you gonna do the live after this?
I can. Yeah, I didn't.
Yeah, you should. I don't know what it's gonna entail, but I know he's gonna be live at the show. So, and it's in Missouri. I've never been to Missouri, but I hear great things about it. Are you gonna be at the Oregon shows, the Show Me Reptile shows? There's one in Eugene and one in Medford.
I might try to get the Medford one. That's kind of when I plan on being down there seeing some family. All my family's still down in Southern Oregon, Grants Pass, Medford. So, yeah, I might
And
hit
that's the
that
beginning
Medford
of
one.
September.
Yep.
And then there's an Idaho one too. I don't know if you're going to that, but that's the middle of next month.
Yeah.
Totally good. Awesome. I think this was a great show, though, and we definitely have to have you back on, especially with all of your plant info. And I want to see those plants in the future too. I want to see how big they are in a year. It's crazy.
Yeah, definitely. I think that September timeframe, they'll be going nuts after spending all summer outside. It'll be awesome. Yeah,
That's
some
awesome.
giant
Cool.
leaves. Yeah.
Is there anything else you want to say to everybody before we end the show?
One thing for you, another Oregon guy into reptiles. There is a gentleman in Hillsboro, Jeremy Rigdon, who is breeding Kumingi water monitors.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, he's got an amazing line of Kumingi with that high whiteout on the back.
Okay.
But he's also getting his feet wet in the what's the one from Australia? Why am I brain farting on this?
Renty?
No, I wish. Yeah.
Open.
There's the Bell's phase and the normal. Why am I drawing a
The
blank on
laces.
laces? Thank you.
Yeah.
I have brain fart. I told you this was early in the morning for me. Yeah, he's also getting into laces, and he has a couple. And I know he plans on breeding those. So just for your own information, I'm not shouting them out or plugging them here for everybody.
No, shout them out. That's amazing. I gotta have them on.
Yeah, Rigdon's Reptiles. The dude's on it. He's a good human being, and his animals are insane. His cages are sick. And he's producing some amazing animals. So if you're ever in the market for one of those, just a short drive up to Hillsboro for you.
Awesome.
And he might be somebody. Yeah, he might be somebody who'd be good for your podcast. You know, another Oregon guy who's a proven breeder and been kicking butt. And yeah. I'm going to link you two up.
Perfect. Let's do it.
Two up. Yep.
And do you want to let anybody know where to find you at in case they want to buy plants or something like that?
Yeah. So I'm on Facebook, Jason Gamby. On Instagram, jgamby713. I'm old school. I stick to those two things. I'm not out there on Snap and all the kids ones. I'm an old man, so I'm just Facebook and Insta.
Now you're on YouTube.
Now I'm on YouTube. I did have a YouTube channel for Lulu, Lulu the Asian water monitor, and I got up probably 8 videos of. I thought it was a girl, so I named her Lulu, and found out it was a boy, so I changed it to Lou. Yeah, I do have a YouTube channel. Not many views, but there's some videos out there of caging and things like that with my big water monitor.
Yay! Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. Well, thank you everybody for watching. What a great show. Thank you, Jason, for coming on. And we'll definitely talk more and have you back on in the future.
Awesome. Thanks, Mark. Appreciate you, buddy.